Welcome to the Luke Jaeger Show. Today my guest is Austin Spence. He's the bassist and vocalist of Embryonic Devourment and a veteran of the Northern California metal scene. Hey Austin, thanks for coming on, dude.
Hey, good to be with you, man. It's great to see you.
Yeah, it's been a while.
Long time.
Can you kind of take me back a little bit to, I guess maybe early 2000s when you joined Embryonic and how that all came about, and what instruments were you playing at the time?
Sure. Yeah. Well, I originally, when I first started playing as a kid, it was guitar. I picked up the guitar from my dad, kind of, and just started noodling around. And basically, through all the things I went through up to that point, Embryonic Devourment was originally a pirate-inspired band. We were called Yield Scabbard at the time. And we were more kind of into the sounds of like Swedish death metal at that time. Some of the more tamer stuff, even like, maybe early Opeth, something like that. Obituary, just slow, groovy type stuff. And we kind of wanted to take it from that aspect and do a pirate inspired metal band. So we did that for a while. And then, as things naturally go, you go from one, music to the next. We naturally got into harder, faster stuff. It just happened as a progression. I mean, to me, it was just a natural thing. And I started kind of getting into drumming. I wanted to be a drummer. I was hearing beats in my head, and I actually heard kind of like an album forming within my mind. I was like, man, I got to get this out of me. So I actually took up the drums and formed a project with a guy named Adam called Mummification, and did that for a while. Now, as I was doing that, the Yield Scabbard guys, they kept doing their thing as a two-piece. And by the next time I had checked back in with them, they're like, man, we ditched that name, Yield Scabbard. We're Embryonic Devourment now. And I was like, whoa, that kind of tripped me out. And so kind of came back to the full fold with them because I was curious about what they were doing musically. We had jammed before, with Yield Scabbard, and I figured that would be a good idea to see what they were up to musically now at that point in time. And we came back and they were like more into like Deeds of Flesh, Nile, stuff that I was kind of getting into and or was into pretty much. And through that, I saw consistency with those two guys. They were really driven, in the sense of like, hey, we want to do this till we die. We want to play death metal forever. And that was intriguing to me. And I was like, okay, so I backed away from the Mummification thing. Our singer for that band, actually, he was kind of in and out of jail. And there were some issues within that band with, personal lives and stuff like that. And these other two guys from Embryonic, they were pretty dead serious about what they wanted to do and, had good jobs and stuff. So I figured that had maybe a little bit more stability at that time, I guess. So when I came back, it was pretty much called Embryonic Devourment. And actually, Sleep Terror, your band, played a show with Embryonic Devourment in the very early stages when they were still two-piece, just like you and Dave were. And I think all of us, when we saw you guys play, I think it was the Gaslighter down in San Jose. We were just totally blown away, man. It was insane. And that's when we knew, we're like, yeah, man, like this could be taken to the far depths of insanity, really. That's kind of the beginnings of Embryonic Devourment.
Yeah, I remember those, man, those were good years. Back when it was just kind of like, MySpace and, just really simple times. And I think metal was really interesting back then. And, back in those early days. And I don't want to say early days, but, for our age range, I guess. But I remember quite a few shows we played with you guys. I don't know why, but the one that always sticks out to me the most is that one in Eureka, and then we went to like
Oh yeah,
I think we went to like Denny's or something, and
totally.
that was
Yep,
really fun. Like I just
for
have like
sure.
really vivid memories of stuff like that.
Yeah, yeah, that was a blast.
How
Yeah, and
were
I remember during the MySpace days, going back to that MySpace thing, Sleep Terror was getting phenomenal amount of plays every day through that. I remember. I
yeah.
mean, it was like over 1,000 plays a day, consistently every single day. I'd regularly check in and see who was hitting up the comment section and stuff. I was always trying to bob around and making connects and stuff like that. I was just blown away by how many plays you guys were getting. All the and the music was just insane, dude. I mean,
Thanks.
I just got to say, man. I mean, it's like you know Mozart level as far as extreme music goes, man. I mean, really.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was. I don't know. I think the hype at the time was easier just because there was less, saturation with social media, and I don't know. I mean, the stuff now is just it's hard. There's so many more people here now on the earth, and so many bands competing, and
Yeah.
and the I don't know. Everything's different now, but back then, you could be like a two piece like you guys or us and just play, and the people didn't have their phones out. They were just enjoying the show and like
Yeah.
watching you, and yeah, things have changed quite drastically since then. But speaking of those times, how we haven't seen each other very much, if at all, since like about 2006 or so. But
Yeah.
how have things been going for you since then with the band and musically and just
It's going
personally?
good. I mean, we, just like any kind of, you know, I guess any kind of scene has its ups and downs. I think metal's kind of like that too. There might be 1 second where it's hitting really hard and everybody's into it, and then maybe it dies down a little bit, and then it comes back with a surge. And I kind of feel like our band is kind of like that. We just kind of ride the wave, of whatever's going on at the time. We try to get out, when we can. We try to, at least before the pandemic hit, we would try to do 2-3 week tours, out on the road. That's about as much as we can handle, being out on the road. It's tough, even 2 days, and you're completely partied out or just sick of staying up all night or whatever, so.
Yeah, you guys
um,
recently did. I remember you guys filmed a bit of a kind of a documentary in your one of your last tours, right? I remember just a lot of
yeah.
videos, watching some videos. Uh,
Yeah.
how did that go?
Oh, it was good. Actually, coming back to the two-piece thing, that was Adam Weber, our guitar player for, it was like 11, 12 years, something like that. He actually left the band. He had an injury to his arm at the
Mm,
time, and it was tough for him to play. It hurt physically for him to play. So he kind of stepped away. And me and Luke just said, you know what, man, like Sleep Terror, they were doing it. They were killing. I mean, you guys would come up. I remember, 5-6 band bill, come up and just shred everybody's face off, two people, so it can be done,
mm.
and so, yeah, we just decided to do it like that. We did a whole tour with internal bleeding around all states, just the two of us.
Wow.
When we first showed up on the scene, first date on the tour, all the other bands were kind of like, huh, like,
Mm.
whoa, two-piece, huh? But then once we started getting into the tour, I think, everybody kind of realized that we meant business, and I didn't leave the bass out of the equation either. I actually used an A/B splitter pedal, and
Oh.
I used kind of like a bass effects, octavizer type deal for the bass cab and bass head. And then on the other side of the stage, I had my guitar set up with the Ingle and the Mesa cab. So it sounded pretty cool. I wasn't able to have differing bass lines, of course, but it filled out the sound. It sounded pretty monstrous, I thought. Yeah.
Yeah, I've never really. I've always wanted to learn how to do that, and I never could figure it out. So I eventually just. I ended up. I think on our last tour, I did. Actually, the last couple of tour and some shows before that, but I did just a pre-recorded backing track of the bass, with the keyboards and stuff,
Oh,
like
nice.
to a. But we had to use a click because It had to be in time with the so Marco would have the click, and with
Wow.
the pre-recorded keyboard stuff and like the bass track. So the only thing though is it filled it out a little, decently, but not like there's something about that live bass with that amp and the mic that gives it that flooring low end,
Right.
that you just couldn't really, you couldn't, it wasn't nearly a great replacement for a real bassist, but it was better than, I wish I could have done that back in the old days,
Oh yeah. Yeah.
but we just, it was
I may
raw.
have seen some video of that actually it was with Marco, correct?
Yeah, yeah, it was, but yeah, the two-piece thing, it was like you said, I think it's not something you want to do, but you kind of get stuck doing just because,
Yeah.
there's only so many people that can play this music.
Yeah.
I mean, not only that, but also just even if they can play it, it's like
Yeah.
human beings are very uh, needy of, attention and like money and affection and stuff, obviously.
Yeah.
So it's like, unless you find like some 18-year-old shredder who lives with his parents and, has
Yeah.
time and like, no responsibility, but that's becoming rare now too. So, but anyway,
It
sorry, I just
is.
kind of interjected some
Yeah. No,
stuff.
I mean, I think it's really cool that you did that with the base programming like that because I mean, even though, you know, you're having to deal with that element at the same time, I mean, two humans having to lock in, mathematically like a robot, with that going. I mean, that's pretty incredible musicianship to be able to do that. I mean, that's a challenge in itself. And I don't think there's too many people that would be able to pull that off. You're probably one of the few that can actually do that. You're able to lock in, in that way, at least in my opinion, just awesome musicianship.
Thanks, man. Yeah, likewise. That was really fun times, and yeah, I think one thing about playing in situations like that with less band members on stage live is you have to really. I think it definitely makes you a better musician too, because it drives something in you where you have to kind of make up for the lack of everything else. Like if you don't have a second guitarist, if you don't have a keyboard player or whatever it is, actually that kind of got me into doing MIDI,
Oh,
because
nice.
I started using a MIDI, a Roland MIDI pickup to do the keyboard parts, and but it kind of got to a point where it's like I can only do all like so much, so I just end up kind of pre-recording, using some of the pre-recorded tracks, kind of like Nile does, or like,
That's
I mean,
cool.
there's plenty of bands. Um, I think Nile was one of the first death metal bands I remember when I saw Carl. He had the laptop and all the keyboard stuff, and because obviously there was no keyboard player on stage, so he was doing a lot of that and the MIDI and. But yeah,
Yeah,
you guys are.
that stuff was groundbreaking at that time. Nile, I remember when Catacombs first hit, it just like insane. I got a chance, just by pure chance, really, to see Morbid Angel and Nile play down at the Whiskey a Go Go when I was just a kid, and Morbid Angel was doing Formulas Fatal to the Flesh at
Yeah.
that time. Yeah, it was them and Nile, and I was just like, like, how the hell are you gonna, uh, compete with Morbid Angel? I'd never heard of Nile really at that point. I
Yeah.
just by chance got able to get in on this show, and when I heard that live, it's just like there was no going back, man. Incredible.
Yeah, I saw that tour at actually in Sacramento, my hometown, Bojangles. But yeah, Nile were
Oh
pretty
wow.
new on the scene at that time, and I had just heard of Morbid Angel, and I bought the album, and man, yeah, I was right in front of Trey the whole time, and
Yeah.
and then after the show was done, someone comes up and taps me on the back and kind of like pulls me and turns me around, and it's like, how was it? How was it? How was the show, man? And I thought it was like some random metalhead guy, and then I'm like, wait, that's Trey. And he just like
Oh
jumped
wow.
off the stage, and I was only like 16 at the time, so maybe he kind of, that's why he always used to do that. Like he would come right off the stage after their sets and like talk to people, which I think that's really cool. But now people don't really do that anymore because of who knows, it's just like a lot of things have
Yeah.
changed,
Yeah. Well, I mean, ever since probably, you know, Dimebag
That
got shot. I
exactly.
mean, that changed up the game quite a bit. I mean,
Definitely, yeah. I was gonna say that too, and I just thought maybe I shouldn't bring that up, but yeah, that definitely. Anyway, yeah. Speaking of, Morbid Angel, Nile, all those bands, like, what are you listening to nowadays? What are some things that are inspiring you in terms of metal or just even music in general?
oh man, I've been listening to everything lately. In fact, one of the things that's really tripping me out is this album by Bill Bruford called "Feels Good to Me."
Hmm.
Um, I don't know if you've ever heard that album, but it's incredible. I mean, it's so technical, and it's like from the early '70s. It's like progressive jazz,
Hmm.
super tech, just weird sounding. It's like alien sounding to me right now. So I'm digging on that. A lot of like old school stuff actually. Uh, I just found out about Secret Chiefs, so been
Hmm.
listening to them quite a bit. I like weird music.
Yeah.
I don't listen to death metal all the time.
Hmm.
I have to kind of be in the mood for it to listen to death metal now. But yeah, I'm discovering all the stuff that I missed out on. I was born in 1980, so I want to hear all the stuff before that. And
Yeah.
80s music too. I love 80s music. I'm into goth, dark wave, synth, Depeche Mode,
Yeah. Yeah.
Bauhaus, kind of stuff like that.
Yeah.
Yeah,
You're a lot like me.
that's cool.
Yeah.
I
Uh,
used to not like it growing up.
oh.
When I heard it on the radio, I was like, "What is that?" Like, it just
Mm.
sounded annoying to me or something. I think it because I just wanted to hear more hard rock, more abrasive type sounding stuff. And when I heard the synth type stuff, I was like, it wasn't agreeing with me at that time. But now I hear it, and it's like that's all I want to listen to. For some reason, it's weird how musical palette can change like that.
Yeah. Well, it just means you're progressing. You're just
Totally.
listening to the same thing over and over forever. I mean, I don't know. Like, yeah, I was kind of different. I started off when I was a kid, like, with like Hall and Oates and Billy Joel and, Phil Collins. Like, I loved it, the radio. Everything on the radio back then was like in the 80s. I loved it. I was like, George Michael's badass. And,
Nice.
but
That's
then
cool.
I got into Guns N' Roses and Metallica, Megadeth, all that. And then it kind of, got heavier. And then, of course, like
Yeah,
the weird bands like Bungle and Naked
totally.
City and stuff. And, but yeah, so, but I guess all those bands, I guess maybe that's where I'm different. Is I always loved like synth pop and 80s, like those 80s pop stuff, and
Hell yeah.
even the cheesy stuff was awesome. Like,
Yeah.
but yeah, I still like it. I listen to like I'll go to the gym and I'll have like Deicide and Legion or something really brutal and Slayer, and then all of a sudden like switch over to like I don't know, Depeche Mode or I don't know, like
Nice. I
maybe
love it.
9 Inch Nails or whatever. I'm just
Oh,
always
hell
like
yeah.
all over the place. But it's kind of, I don't know, man. I feel like a lot of people in metal, there are more people who are like that, like us, but they won't admit it. They're just like
Yeah.
I'm brutal. I like Suffocation and I like this and that, and that's it. I don't listen to any. But
Yeah.
I think they,
Oh,
uh,
that's cool. I mean, one of the recent shows I went to, I know people are going to shows and stuff again, but the recent show that I went to, other than the last show we played, was I went to go see a Cure cover band, which is interested
mm,
in, how they would pull off the Cure songs live. And they're actually really good. I
mm,
just, enjoyed it. I was enthralled the whole way through,
damn,
probably way more than I am uh, a lot of the death metal shows that I'm seeing now, or at least saw in the past, because I mean, the really good ones are kick ass, of course, but then you kind of have the shows that aren't, you know, it, there's always that up and down factor. So, but yeah,
yeah. That one thing about metal shows is that metal sound. I find like metal can often sound better on a recording than it does live because it can get really loud and especially the vocals. Like I was listening to Decapitated, like the early stuff, and it's just like, man, it's so invigorating. Like especially like in the gym and that double bass and the clarity and the riffs are tight. But then like I heard a live recording and it's like it's just so noisy and thrashy and like it's not the same. I don't know. Do you feel like
Yeah,
that? Like,
totally.
but if you see a band that's like a pop band or jazz band or something, it's cleaner live because it's just cleaner music in terms of the I don't know the amplification and of course the singing and things like that. But that's
Yeah,
just
I
my
agree.
experience. But
I agree. I mean, I have a Buddy Rich record that I pull out from time to time, and it's recorded all live, but it sounds just as crystal clear as any CD that you would hear today. I mean, but they were able to do it back then. There was something about just nailing your music proficiently and having good sound.
definitely.
Uh,
Yeah. How do you feel? You've obviously lived in Northern California for a long time. How do you feel the scene has changed? From like the early 2000s till now. I mean, obviously, there's been a lot of venues that have closed. I know Slim's closed down recently, and
yeah.
um, how has the scene changed in general, just as far as the clubs and also just the camaraderie amongst death metal bands in general? How do you think everything's been going up till now?
Um, yeah, it's been kind of a trip because you're right. There are a few venues that have closed, and like for instance, the SF, the San Francisco scene was pretty thriving there, and we just booked an SF show coming up January 29th at a little club called the Parkside, and they're a great little venue. And I love that place, but when I was looking around for venues originally, I was just super surprised at how little there was to choose from. It was pretty much them and like one other venue that wasn't available. So yeah, that has changed a lot. That's trippy. And I heard that Slim's in Oakland just canceled like all their shows for some reason. Um, in fact, one of the shows that Exhumed is doing, it's supposed to be at the Metro. Sorry, the Metro in Oakland. Just got changed to up here, up in our neck of the woods in Ukiah, California.
Mm.
So it does seem a little trippy right now. But there are some venues still doing. I think the COVID really is what kind of just huge setbacks, for everybody in general.
Yeah.
So
Are the policies there pretty tight? I know San Francisco's kind of, I don't know. It's kind of like Seattle. Is it really
yeah,
strict there? Like,
I know that at our next show they are requiring the crowd to bring in their vaccination proof and all that.
mm,
Um, so that'll be weird to see how that all works. This will be the first show that we've played that's like that. The one we did out in Las Vegas, that was no problem. They weren't checking for vaccinations or anything like that.
do you guys
I
like
mean,
those? Oh, sorry.
yeah, it's the whole thing. I mean, it's scary and real, of course. But I just at the same time, it's like I gotta live my life.
Yeah.
I gotta be able to go out and do things.
Do you guys like playing festivals more than just headlining just regular shows in general, or what? How do you feel about festivals, especially death metal
Um,
fest?
yeah, I like festivals. We did the Netherlands Death Fest. We did a tour with Malignancy in Europe in
Yeah.
2017, I think it
Wow.
was. And that was pretty cool. It was a nightliner bus tour. And the final show was at the Netherlands Death Fest,
Mm.
which I thought was really cool because then we had all that practice leading up to it, all the tour dates, and then boom, you have that show. So we were nice and razor sharp for that show. I felt like, but I played other festivals where it takes 2 days to get there.
Yeah.
You're just feeling like jello by the time you get up on stage, and
Yeah.
so that's always kind of tough to deal with.
Yeah, I know that. I guess like a lot of them are happening kind of in the Midwest too. So you're, or even Vegas, and you're like, God damn. you know, yeah, we've been offered some fest here and there, but it's like, oh, we'll pay you $50 or just like,
Yeah.
so ridiculous. Like, no, like there's no way that's gonna happen, man. I mean,
Yeah, you got to be able to at least, cover your expenses.
yeah, I think
Totally.
on our tour in 2006, we had a really good fest with like Devourment and a bunch of bands, and that was really fun. It was fun because there was some like a feeling of less like when you're headlining a show or something, and there's more pressure. Like these guys better be awesome, and you're just like you don't want any technical problems go wrong and things like that. But then you kind of
Yeah.
just play amongst 10 other bands, and you're just kind of it's almost like a party. You're just kind of relaxed. Well, I don't know, that's how I felt, but
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. It is kind of, we have headlined a couple smaller like festival type deals, like the Fresno Death Fest and a couple other ones, Washington Death Fest. Um, but yeah, I'm such a chill, like timid kind of guy, I think.
Mhm.
And so whenever we have those headline slots, like I feel like I have to like morph myself into this other being. Like I got to go up there and like act like a monster and like, walk all hard and stuff. And
Yeah.
yeah, that's always a challenge to do because I feel like, yeah, as a headliner, you have to put on the show. They're coming to not only to hear you, but they want to obviously see you perform. There's
Mhm.
like this whole like theatric thing that I try to put on when I'm ever put in that position. So I actually do kind of prefer the opening slots a little better because there's not as much pressure and I can kind of just be myself a little more and just kind of hide in the shadows. And yeah.
Where do you feel in California, just all over the state? What is your favorite city or venue to play?
um, Here in California,
Yeah.
I love playing down in the San Diego area. They're always
Mm.
super receptive down there.
Mm.
We've been playing down there for years, and I just like the vibe of it, just the whole beach vibe, and
Mm.
it's great food and just really enthusiastic people at the shows, great mosh pits and stuff, which is always cool to see when you're playing.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
yeah, it just always seems like we're taken care of well down there.
Mm. And then you guys, are you signed to Unique Leader recently?
Well, yeah, it's coming up, and um, yeah, it's supposed to hit next year, actually in February. So
Mm.
we're just kind of waiting for the label to you know fit it into when the video is going to get released and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, you'll be hearing about that real soon, probably by mid-December.
Cool.
Yeah.
You guys have a lot of new stuff written right now, or are you still writing?
We do have a little bit of stuff written, just mostly riffs and stuff like that. But yeah, we have a brand new album that's going to be coming out in February next year. And that's going to be 8 new songs. And yeah, it's totally, I think it's our best stuff
Mm.
personally. It feels way tighter than any of the other stuff we've done. I mean, it's just been a long time since we've been at this. And so I feel like this time we were like, okay, like we're going to work out any kinks along the way, and really try to make this record smooth. I tried to have a technical element to it, but I also wanted it to have some groove too, just kind of really just followed like our own instinct on what, we would want to hear, being in a band. So I think it's going to be a really honest album.
You guys usually record in the studio, or you kind of do stuff at home and send it to each other?
Yeah. This one was actually the first time I actually I composed all the riffs and then I got out a drum machine and like literally tapped it out all with, little buttons and just, took me take after take after take to get the drums right. And So I actually composed the drums. I put the riffs, the guitar riffs along with it. And then I handed a CD to our drummer, Luke. And it's like, okay, well, here's what I kind of want, and because he's, I want him to be able to write too. I don't want to be like, this is definite how it has to be. Here's the CD. You better learn it like this. I wanted him to have that freedom. So I kind of just said, here's what I was thinking, here's the drum patterns I was thinking. Mm-hmm. And he basically, put his touch on it and changed a bunch of stuff around. But that was good. It was good for the songwriting process. And then we got a date set up with Juan at Trident Studios and came in and laid it down. And yeah, it sounds pretty cool, man. I'm really happy with it.
Is he still in Pacheco?
Yep.
Oh yeah.
Yep. Same spot.
You guys have worked with Colin before too, huh?
Yeah. Colin has actually our very first full length, Fear of Reality Exceeds Fantasy. We were actually Matt Sotelo from Decrepit Birth engineered and recorded that down in Santa Cruz, and then we sent it to Colin for mixing and mastering, basically. And so he did that. And then later on, a couple albums down, when we were doing the Reptilian Agenda album, we tried to kind of record that one on our own. We're like, we can do this. We're going to make our own recording. So we recorded the whole thing, and then we sent it to Colin just so we could get his take on it. We're like, what do you think? Is this releasable? What should we do? What's your opinion? And he was like, well, he's like, you guys can't release this. It's like, you guys will totally, this has to be done correctly. So he had us come down to his studio, and we kind of retracked all the guitars and worked with the sound, and Colin, further schooled us on how to make a good recording. So yeah, Colin's actually been a good dude for Embryonic Devourment. He's kind of like our extended band member, I would say. We always kind of consult with him, throughout the years. We always consult with him and ask what we're doing wrong, what we're doing right. More so what we're doing wrong, but
yeah, it's nice to get help from people, advice and things like that. I feel like a lot of, especially on the audio engineering side of things, that's a kind of a field where people don't like sharing too much of their secrets, like they're just like, you're going to pay thousands of dollars and I'll do it for you, but I'm not going to give you a few pointers or this and that. At least like some people I've worked with, like, yeah, it's a tough one, man. But now, it's like a lot of people are doing it themselves, and there's so many plugins now, and studios are. I'm surprised at this point people still, the studio thing is even around.
Yeah. I agree. I mean, even now, we have our own, recording software at home that we mess around with and stuff like that. And we're just about at that point to really do it for ourselves now through everything that we've learned, throughout the years. But, I think back then, though, it was really nice. And even this last record, to just have someone focus on pushing the buttons and worrying about the plugins and all that kind of thing. We just wanted to be able to just focus on our music, and when me and Luke are working with the recording programs, it's like, well, how do you do this? And how do well, maybe it should sound like this. Maybe it should sound like that. And there's a certain point when it's just like, okay, we need to have somebody else handle this, obviously, but that's just us. Every band's got their own style and different strokes for different folks, so to speak.
Yeah. So you guys have a show coming up in February. Anything beyond that right now to mention, or?
Well, we're pretty much just working and practicing, practicing the material, trying to get that ready. At the Las Vegas show that we did, we did a couple new ones, and we played some older material as well. But I'd like to get it to the point where these next few shows that we're doing, we're only playing new material because I'd really like to just, kind of move forward with this new lineup. The older stuff, it's like I feel like I've been playing it for 20 years, and I'm just kind of ready to move on from it. So
Yeah.
yeah, we got a video that's going to be dropping in December, and we're just continuing to write. I'm trying to think about new ways to sound too. I don't want to sound like everybody else. So I'm trying to develop some kind of new thing. I'm not sure what yet, but
Like as
I'm
far
shooting
as
for it. Yeah.
like a metal or just in general.
I think, yeah, with metal,
Mhm.
I like what you're doing actually with the slide. That's kind of cool. You don't really hear too many bands in the death metal genre using the slide, if any at all. So I think that's pretty cool what you're doing. To be able to create an original element like that is super cool, and I'd like to figure something out. Definitely.
Yeah, that was kind of all that came together. It kind of happened during the lockdowns where I was just like, I started to really think about like, I have all this time now because I can't go out to eat. I can't go to I can't go to the gym anymore.
Oh wow.
All
Yeah.
the lockdowns, last
Yeah.
year. And so I had all this time like where I was like, what do I want to do with music? What do I feel like I need to work on? And I kind of gave up on like flamenco because I wanted to play real flamenco guitar, and I just
Oh,
couldn't do it with my nails. And like I didn't like it. So I thought about country, and I was like, I always want to play. I want to be kind of like learn honky tonk country guitar, like
nice.
chicken picking. I already knew a little bit, but I want to get really like Brent Mason level kind of thing, like.
Oh yeah. That
But
stuff can
then
get really technical.
yeah, and then that kind of turned into like halfway through the album, I started watching uh the movie Hard Target with Van Damme, and it's based in like Louisiana, and there was just this part I always love this the theme of the song with the slide guitar, and I'm like, dude, I need that in this record, So, and I really
Yeah.
wasn't like the greatest slide. I could play slide sometimes, and I've used a slide in Sleep Terror before, and little bits of parts, But like this, I wanted to do something really legit like that, like something like that, dark western
Yeah.
meets like bayou swamp, kind of alligators crawling around. So
That
then,
is cool.
but yeah, so then I kind of took me a few days, but I started getting kind of proficient with it and learning the proper. But I think like teaching guitar too helped because I had I think there was like a guy, what ZZ Top, yeah. There was a solo in one of the tunes that I had to teach, and I had kind of was forced to learn how to play good slide. So, but anyway,
Wow.
that's how that kind of came in there, like really emphatically, So, but yeah, I know, man, it's everything's been done in a sense, but I think you can always find something that's unique unto you. And
Yeah. Like what if you took two snare drums and those two snare drums, would have kick pedals hooked up to them, kind of like a double kick. And then the bass drum would be right here. You play it like a snare.
yeah,
Just something
yeah,
weird and different, attack it from a different viewpoint, I guess
yeah.
is kind of what I'm thinking. That's just an
Uh,
example, but
yeah, I've seen some crazy stuff like that, like at NAMM. Man, I saw a bass player. I can't remember. Oh yeah, he had like a broomstick or something. I think he had like one or two strings like on this. It was weird, but he was doing this
wow.
slap bass stuff, and like I don't know how people think of this stuff, but it was super awesome, And yeah, it's uh it's nice to kind of get out of that linear thinking, And that's also like we were talking earlier about death metal, and death metal is cool because I feel like a lot of people who play death metal have the ability to shift to other styles of music more easily versus like a jazz. I've seen like jazz classical guys who don't have that gift where they can just play metal if they want to. You know what I mean?
Right,
Like
right.
metal guys have this ability to transpire to other genres of music, and it's kind of a gift, but it's also a gift I don't see being used very often. Like I feel like people get stuck and like I have to play, well, everything has to be metal in this band, or it's not like, I don't want to be like a joke band, or, I mean, that's common, I mean, you're not going to see like you're not going to see a band like Slayer, like throw in, a funk riff or something, you know what I mean? Like,
Right.
it's like we're metal and that's just the end of and, so they're, that kind of thing is kind of like why, I feel like it's a gift that's not being used with a lot of metal musicians, because they have that gift of, they can play other styles of music if they want to more easily than like some classical, or jazz guitar player who they just cannot easily. There's exceptions to that, like Chris Poland from Megadeth, who was he's basically a fusion jazz kind of guy, and then
Yep.
he joined Megadeth and he started doing speed metal, but that it's very rare to find that in my experience at least. But
Yeah. You were one of the pioneers for that, with Sleep Terror, in my opinion. In fact, I remember there was like a Northern California website that we were all kind of a part of, and remember it was ncmu.com, Northern California Metal Underground, something like that. And yeah, they didn't know, what to think of Sleep Terror at first, because they were like, well, are they really a metal band? Because you were doing things that were smashing down all the barriers within the metal genre. You were total death grind craziness, and then break into a jazz section or something like that, and some people didn't know how to. I mean, you guys were ahead of your time. It was futuristic,
Thanks.
And so, yeah, you definitely smashed those walls down, dude.
Thanks. Yeah, I mean, I think some of it. There's been bands over the years that have kind of done a little bit of that genre crossing, but I think what made us stand out was just the extremity of all those genres. Like death metal, especially. That was like the meat and potatoes was the tech death riffing, and of course there's influences with that, but like, it was kind of a mixture of a lot of the California tech death bands, and of course, I don't want to say Necrophagus because I wasn't really I didn't listen to them much, but because they came out at the same time. Well, they got popular at the same time, but the style was similar. It was kind of like a lot of neoclassical solos, because I kind of grew up on Yngwie and stuff, and Sholem.
Oh, wow.
But like that was kind of, there's just some of the obvious influences in there, but I guess the extremity, because there's not really, obviously there are a lot of death metal bands who play stupid, I don't want to say stupid, but like silly kind of throw in like a James Brown funk part, or like, there's like, I think Cephalic Carnage, they kind of did a little bit of that. They would have like a little bit of a jazz thing going on, like between like a grind part,
Right.
but it wasn't like, I think it kind of just came off to me like more, kind of like Mr. Bungle. It's more like, it was cool, but it was kind of like, hey, let's do this, like it might sound funny if we threw that in there, but the way I approached it was like, I really am all about this shit, like,
Yeah.
I like
Oh, yeah.
this, like
That's the thing, is we took it all, me and my friends, whenever we heard you guys, we took it all seriously. That's the thing. Whereas you may have been like, oh, that might be funny to throw this in here or there. All of us were like, no, this is some serious music going down right now. Like, it was intense, man. And you could see when you guys played too, how just locked in the music was, just very, obviously you have bands like Mr. Bungle and stuff. But maybe it's because, you guys were an instrumental band, and so it just, everything had a real seriousness to it, even though you guys were going out with far out ideas. It just sounded really intense, man.
Yeah, I think obviously the instrumental thing kind of helps a little bit, because it kind of isolates the music a little more, and sometimes you could throw vocals in that it can make or break it. So,
True. It's kind of a genre definer almost, in a way. It's like, once you do your vocals this way, then, oh, that's death metal, or, oh, that's screamo, but when you do instrumental, they don't know how to classify you really.
Yeah, but the downside to that is I think a lot of our success in general is kind of tapered down because of the fact that we are an instrumental band, and instrumental music is kind of it's just one of those things, man. It's like, you know, I think the best thing for us would be to like have a song in a movie or something like that, kind of like what happened to Dick Dale.
Oh yeah.
Because he wasn't making much money at the, he kind of had his wave in the 50s and 60s and stuff, and then he basically became a kind of a drifter. No one really was listening to surf music or guitar stuff very much. And then, once he was had his tunes in Pulp Fiction, it was like boom,
Oh
he's
yeah.
just famous again and making money. And
Yeah,
but
that
that's kind of like,
soundtrack sold a bunch.
yeah, so I think like that's kind of really what we need at this point, because the social media and the hype, like we're not going to be like Arc Spire or Dying Fetus or Animals as Leaders. Like those guys just have so much more of an advantage of streams and album sales and just attention, and everyone, they're kind of becoming like household names. While we kind of were like that in the and back in like 2004 to
Oh yeah,
2007,
totally.
like
I probably enjoy Sleep Terror more than Animals Leaders, and that's you know I love Animals as Leaders. I think they're a killer band. I own their albums and stuff. I just I just appreciate your guys' approach with just keeping it brutal at the same time. At the same time adding all that musicianship within. You guys have a certain formula. And people need to take notice of that. Buy your guys' stuff, man, because it's insane to me.
thanks, dude.
Totally.
Well, so your website is embryonicdevourment.us. Is that correct?
Yep.
And do you have any other sites you want to plug, like Instagram, or I mean, you're on Facebook, but um, yeah.
Yeah, we have. See, we got a few different sites actually. We have a new merch page actually called. Let's see, it's coldsubject.square.site, and that's got a bunch of new like t-shirt designs and stuff, and that always helps when people buy a shirt.
Yeah.
We always put that right back into the band. So definitely.
Is that a site something you use internationally too, for like international sales, or?
Yeah, you can. It's kind of like it's an on-demand type store
Mhm.
where the t-shirt is printed, basically as soon as it gets ordered. And so
Okay.
I'm able to, have a bunch of different designs through them and stuff. And I kind of think of it like if someone were to download a song, it's kind of like, you get a t-shirt sale and the company handles all the logistics for you, basically.
Yeah.
Kind of cool.
Cool, Austin. It was good to talk to you again, man. And
Yeah,
looking
you
forward
too,
to
brother.
seeing what you guys do. And it's been cool to hear the progression of the music. And you still look pretty young, man. What's the secret? you,
uh,
we're like, I know we're about the same age, but you look like you take care of yourself.
I try to, man. I want to stay healthy. I think health is an important factor. In our age. I'm in my 40s now, so
Yeah,
I want to treat myself well and do death metal as long as I can do it.
yeah. Cool, buddy. It's good to see you again, man.
Yeah, you too, brother.